Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Wilson with the Friday Night Locker Room and SpaceKids Daily TV, coming to you from the Urban Automotive Studio on the 520 Causeway, Merritt Island. Today's show is brought to you by Urban Automotive and sponsored by Craig Technologies, Sidus Space, and Auto Expo 95. I'm both honored and excited to be joined by my two guests today. When I hear their names, among the things that come to mind are they were the first married couple on a commercial space flight, and the word SpaceKids Global comes to mind. And if you're not familiar with the nonprofit SpaceKids Global, we're going to find out a little bit about it in just a few minutes. But first, I'd like to welcome to the show Sharon and Marc Hagle. Thank you for joining me today. How are you?
Very good. Thank you.
Morning, Steve. We're excited to be here. We can talk about space all day long.
Hey, it's online, so there's no limit. We may be here all day long talking about it. Now, I'm really excited to talk with you about SpaceKids Global. I stumbled across it the other day. But before we get into that, I have to talk to you and I have to ask you about the space flight. You did something that most of us dream about doing. Marc, was it everything that you had hoped?
Well, Steve, this is something that we've been chasing for over 15 years. We got involved in the space industry on a very close basis with Virgin Galactic about 15 years ago and have chased the opportunity for that long. It was more than I thought it would be. The adrenaline level and the emotions attached to it and in the personal and physical impressions that it leaves with one are just indescribable.
Yeah, I still have to pinch myself. I can't believe we really did it. I mean, there's just no words to accurately describe the whole experience, because for me, it was very emotional and spiritual. I was surprised about how emotional it is.
Mm-hmm. I can only imagine there was a lot of preparation leading up to the launch. Did anything surprise you prior to the launch?
Actually, the training that Blue Origin put on was just incredible. What an amazing organization and how well organized they really are. Yeah, to answer your question, what surprised me, only because I hadn't thought it through, but I started out majoring in physics, so I should have thought this through. Mm-hmm. Getting in and out of your seat in zero gravity. Getting out isn't difficult, but if you think about getting back in zero gravity, the slightest momentum bounces you back out of the seat. There is a technique to getting into that seat.
The crew was laughing because I forget who said it, but when I talked to the kids, I go, can you believe it took us 3.5 days of training to learn how to buckle a seatbelt?
That's something the layperson like myself, I wouldn't even have thought about that. It was just an afterthought. But as it got closer, you're sitting, you're about to launch, the clock is counting down. Sharon, what's going through your mind? 5, 4, 3, what are you thinking about?
Well, first of all, I think we made another record. We have the longest hold with Blue Origin. We had 46-minute hold.
Yep.
Wow.
They started about 9 minutes and 59 seconds. So there was a lot of time to reflect. But having Gary Lai, who was the architect of New Shepard rocket, he was sitting there explaining, okay, this is what's happening on ground control. This is what's happening in mission control. We'll be down here probably for X amount of minutes. And it just was very reassuring. And also it gave us time to reflect. And that's where I say it gets a little emotional, because you think about what a responsibility it is for myself to have this opportunity so early on with the mission, and to sit there and have that time to reflect. It was very overwhelming.
Marc, as the countdown clock was getting closer to zero, what were you thinking about?
Let me give you an impression prior to that first, and it was in your question. We've talked about the emotional impact of what this had on us. And when you heard the clock counting down 3, 2, 1, that's one of the triggers that we're left with. And it makes us tear up every time we hear that, because it reflects us back on just how strong that emotional impression was at the time it actually happened. You can't believe what it does to one's psyche, because we sat there in the hole for so long, and now I'm tearing up, because we sat there in the hole for so long. my adrenaline level dropped back down from where it was at this incredible high as we got into the spaceship and they closed the door and we're ready to go and the countdown starts. But then it started again. And when you heard that final countdown, you can't believe the excitement level and the emotional level that your body feels at that time. And when the engines ignite and you see the reflection of the red glare from the engines from down below on the roof of the spaceship, one can't describe it.
Wow. When you launched, were there any nerves at all? Were you nervous? Does complete confidence in the vehicle and the preparation? I'm thinking I would love to do what you did, but I think I would be very nervous about the time I lifted off.
Well, Steve, there's so much going on as you begin to climb up the tower. You've got the drones going, you've got the helicopters, you're just kind of living on the adrenaline. Once you're strapped in, I thought being a human, I'd have a lot of anxiety, but no, not at all. We are trained so thoroughly that it all comes back to memory.
And let's think of the evolution of spaceflight. When Alan Shepard first flew on a mission that was identical to the one we flew, that was experimental. They didn't really know what to expect. They didn't know what was going to happen. But look at how much time has gone by in the space industry, and look at what NASA has learned and contributed to the space industry. And then look at how private industry has taken advantage of that knowledge base and expanded on it. And if you think about the engines and the safety of the engines, the safety of the entire system that's built into it now, it's no different in my mind from getting on a jet airplane and flying across the Atlantic Ocean. As far as the safety of it, the technology, unbelievable.
Well, and that brings up another aspect, which is transportation. Launching into space, the real meaning behind all this is being able to launch here at Kennedy and be in London in 45 minutes.
Right.
It's going to happen.
It will. I'll tell you, living on the Space Coast as we do, rocket launches, every time you turn around, there's one leaving from the Cape or the Space Center. It's just amazing what's taking place these days.
I'm looking forward to the one coming up the end of the month, the Artemis.
Yeah, same here. There's a tremendous amount of excitement on the Space Coast. We're expecting a big crowd, and it's going to be exciting. One more question about your flight. You're in space and you're looking down on planet Earth. What are you feeling? What do you see? I can't even imagine that sensation.
No, that's the one you can't describe. When I got back to Earth, we visited with family and friends the rest of the day, well into the night, and then tried to go to bed. And of course, I couldn't sleep that night. And I got up about 2 o'clock in the morning after about 1 hour's sleep and just started dictating a memo to family. And it's impossible to put words to the emotional impression that one has when you're looking back at the Earth from outer space.
The photographs don't do it justice. Once I got up there, it was beyond spectacular because there is such a black wall that you see facing out into space. No reflection, no stars. And as you look back at the Earth, I get chills just talking about it. It's something that really chokes you up. And I think you have a responsibility once you've seen this to come back and make a difference in the world.
Before we get into SpaceKids Global, I do have one more question. I always hear from astronauts that planet Earth looks so small, it looks so tiny. Did you get that impression as well?
Absolutely. In fact, one of the things that I dictated in my memo is that the planet Earth is no different than a large spaceship. We're just a piece, we're an ornament in a huge galaxy, in a huge universe. And, that's one of the things that's difficult for the human mind to comprehend. When I was growing up in taking physics classes, the question I always asked myself and could never answer, if there is an end to the universe, what's on the other side? It doesn't end. How does the human mind comprehend that?
I don't know. I wouldn't even begin to know how to answer that question. I don't know that anybody here can, but it's, what you experienced, it's just amazing. As I mentioned at the outset, You did something that a lot of us dream about doing, and it had to be incredibly exciting. So many adjectives you could use, but just very, very interesting, however you want to put it. But what I'd like to do, I need to take a short break. If you can stick around, I want to transition into SpaceKids Global. Can you hang around a few minutes longer?
Yes, indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to take a short break, and when we return, we'll continue the conversation with Sharon and Marc Hagle. You're watching a very special edition of the Friday Night Locker Room. We'll be right back. Craig Technologies, family, integrity, loyalty, passion, community. Craig Technologies supports projects from concept to real-world application with end users in mind. They engineer, design, prototype, manufacture, and test a wide variety of mission-critical systems for a diverse range of customers. Craig Technologies, because it's all about the mission. Sidus Space, satellite constellation operations, space platforms, manufacturing, and more. Sidus Space makes it easy for any corporation, industry, or vertical to start their journey off-planet with their rapidly scalable, low-cost satellite services, space-based solutions, and testing alternatives. More than just a satellite-as-a-service provider, Sidus Space, your trusted mission partner from concept to low Earth orbit and beyond. Sidus Space, space access reimagined.
Hi, this is Kiara Gizzi from Sydney, Australia. You're watching the Friday Night Locker Room on Space Coast Daily TV.
Welcome back to a very special edition of the Friday Night Locker Room. I'm Steve Wilson, once again coming to you from the Urban Automotive Studio on the 520 Causeway, Merritt Island. My very special guest today, Sharon and Marc Hagle. We've been talking about their flight into space, and now we're going to shift gears and talk about the nonprofit SpaceKids Global. Sharon and Marc, thank you once again for joining us.
Well, thank you.
You know, I recently found out about SpaceKids Global, and that's my fault for taking so long to find out about you. But tell us a little bit about the nonprofit and what you do.
Sharon.
Well, I founded SpaceKids Global in 2015. We're a nonprofit organization located right here in Orlando, Florida. And our mission is to go into elementary school and inspire those kids in STEAM education, but also ensuring that women are equally represented in the space industry.
Now, do you have a website, or how do you get the word out to those that may be interested in participating?
We do. It's spacekids.global. And you can get information about our site too if you'd like to schedule a presentation with us at info@spacekids.global. Is there a space camp, or do individuals, young people, actually come to a particular location to find out what you do, or how do you get together with the young people?
You know, the program has morphed a little bit over time, but the bottom line is it has a number of avenues with which it reaches the young kids. It started out where Sharon would go into elementary schools and meet face-to-face with the children and introduce them to the possibilities of space and the possibilities of participating, keyword, participating in things that would get them interested in technological education. And it was extremely successful and has expanded from there into other plateaus and competitions that she's done around the country and around the world.
Right. We want the kids to be participators, not spectators. So we reached out to our partners in the space industry. Last summer, we sent 21 science projects to the ISS, the International Space Station, with SpaceX right here in our own backyard at Kennedy Space Center.
Wow.
For several months. Then we just finished a competition, essay competition called Why I Want to Go to Space, and we partnered with Zero Gravity. And we just announced 2 winners. There's one on the West Coast and one on the East Coast, and they'll be taking their flights to fly like an astronaut in October.
Yeah, and now that you have both flown into space and you're talking to these young people, it has to be a little bit different. It has to feel a little bit different because you know what you're talking about. You've been there. Can you see the excitement from the young people when they realize, hey, these people have been in space?
Oh, it's better than that, Steve. For the first 5-6 years, our presentation was, how do I get to space? You know, what are the vehicles? What kind of training? Mark and I have trained not only at Kennedy Space Center with zero gravity, but also with NASTAR, where NASA trains their astronauts on the centrifuge. And then we had an opportunity to go to Star City, Russia, and train with the Russian cosmonauts. So now that everything's shifted, I get to talk for 30 minutes about what it really felt like. And you asked earlier about what surprised you.
Yeah.
You know, as you're sitting there in your seat, you hear the countdown, and then there's this deafening roar of the engines, and then your seat starts to rumble. And then you can start, it's almost like slow motion as it starts to lift off. And the ceiling lights up with red. And then wham, you're doing G-forces and you feel the pressure on your body. And it's just, it's amazing. I mean, I get so excited. I get excited telling the kids, and the kids get excited.
They have to be, because you're giving the description firsthand. You've lived it. You know what it feels like. It has to just bring out the excitement in the kids. And we all know they ask them some interesting questions at times. And I'm sure you've gotten your fair share of interesting questions. Let's talk a little bit about that. Is there a period where you interact and they actually do ask questions?
Absolutely. For each presentation, we have time for Q&A. And I think what I've been so surprised about is that the kids think there's only one job in the space industry, and that's an astronaut. And what we tell them is that they're probably going to be living off planet, and we're going to need everybody: chefs, scientists, farmers. You know, there's room for everyone.
Yeah.
Space community is much broader than the young kids think it is. All the publicity and all the excitement is about an astronaut. And as Sharon's explained, there is such a broad field and such a need for people in the industry. The amount of jobs that are vacant right now in the space industry are how many right now?
3.5 million vacancies in the STEAM field.
Wow.
2025. So we're hoping to take these kids' excitement and start them down the pipeline.
And the real problem is our educational system is not educating kids at a significant rate to fill those jobs. And kids aren't wanting to go into those fields, particularly young girls. They get intimidated out of it. And they need to understand that there's so many opportunities. You don't have to be the person sitting in the seat going to space. You have to design the spaceship. You have to design the uniform. You have to figure out how you're going to serve meals. There are so many things that are either technical or not technical, and capabilities for people to be involved in the space industry. What a future that is for our young kids if they just think about it and get exposed to it and take advantage of the opportunity.
It was interesting. One of the winners for the zero gravity flight is a 11-year-old out of LA who won the competition, but her whole theme was why I don't want to go to space. She has no interest in going to space, but she wants to be an aerospace engineer.
You know, I was going to ask you a question, and I think you just answered it for me. You're based out of Central Florida, but you work with young people all around the country. I heard you say the contestant winner was from LA, so you don't hone in specifically on Floridians.
Actually, the charity has reached overseas.
We're now in Canada, the UK, Australia, India, and Africa. And
Wow.
that's one of our other programs. We're partnered with Blue Origin on Club for the Future. And they have challenged the state of Florida to fill the capsule with 1 million postcards. And you can find those instructions on our website.
1 million postcards.
Right, for kids 1 to 106. Everybody can have fun. You write a message, draw whatever you want on your postcard. You send it over to Blue Origin. They fly it, stamp it, flown in space, and return it to you.
SpaceKids Global seems to be just growing by leaps and bounds. I'm going to ask you to get your crystal ball out now. And where would you like to see SpaceKids Global 10 years from now?
We're actually working on that right now. The business plan, and I'm going to get a little technical with you here. The business plan is to vertically integrate the system. Right now, SpaceKids Global is trying to excite young children to be involved in the space industry and to participate in programs that are reflective of their age group in the space industry. But that's their age group. Now, what are we going to do as they grow and start going to high school and going to college?
Yeah.
And our charities that are very good around the world right now that we're identifying and we're talking to and we're partnering with to vertically integrate the system so it doesn't break down at the end of elementary education, that it continues through high school and continues into college, and then partner with corporations because they're the ones that need these employees. So let's set up internships for the kids and let's set up possibilities. And then what happens if somebody comes up with a really good idea and they invent the transporter? They invent what you see on Star Trek all of the time. Let's find entrepreneurs that are willing to invest money in those fields to back those kids and take them to the next level and help them develop their ideas. So we're looking at a vertically integrated program, and we're looking for companies to partner with to help us do that. We want to stay in our lane and do what we do best, but we want to partner with people that are in these other lanes that do what they do best and put together a program that encourages these kids through their entire career.
Sounds very exciting. You have a plan, and I have no doubt that you're going to reach it. Before I let you go, I'm going to give each one of you the final word or the final words. Sharon, we'll start first with you.
Well, before I do that, I just wanted to say what SpaceKids Global is looking for today is partnerships with corporations that have these hands-on projects. We've got their attention now. We need to keep them engaged. And so what would my last words be?
I don't know that she's ever had a last word, so that's a difficult question.
It's like space. It goes on and on and on.
I think I want to tell everybody that dreams do come true. Might not be instantaneously, but they do come true.
Mark, we'll let you close the show with your final words.
You know, as Richard Branson said, if your goals and objectives don't scare you, they're not high enough.
No, wait. If your dreams don't scare you, then they're too small. That was his quote.
And I want to change it to goals and objectives.
You're the boss. You can, whatever you want to say goes.
There it is.
So,
Sharon and Marc Hagle, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm very excited to follow SpaceKids Global. And if there's anything we on the Space Coast can do, either to promote it or whatever you have going on, please let us know.
Hey, thank you so much.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you so much. So for Mark and Sharon Hagle, for all of our sponsors, including Urban Automotive, Craig Technologies, Sided Space, and Auto Expo 95. I'm Steve Wilson with the Friday Night Locker Room and Space Coast Daily TV. We'll see you next time.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Command engine start. 2, 1, 0. And liftoff.
And liftoff. Mission Control has confirmed New Shepard has cleared the tower and is on its way to space with our 4th human flight crew.
Godspeed, New Shepard. Godspeed, the Roaring 20s. Enjoy this ride.